The division of the atrioventricular canal, anterior view. This animation will only demonstrate the division of the atrioventricular canal into left and right AV openings. Note that other heart components are forming as well during this time, but their development will not be shown here. Here you have the two endocardial tubes fusing to form a single heart tube, folding, and the heart beating. At this stage in heart development, there is one common atrium and one common ventricle. The atrium and ventricle are connected by an internal opening called the atrioventricular canal. Blood first enters the atrium through the superior and inferior vena cava, then it'll pass through the atrioventricular canal into the ventricle, and finally the blood will exit the heart through the truncus arteriosus. And here we see the blood flow pattern. Masses of tissue called endocardial cushions grow from the sides of the AV canal to partition it into two separate openings. At the top is the superior endocardial cushion. The bottom is the inferior endocardial cushion. As the endocardial cushions grow together, the atrioventricular canal also is being repositioned to the right of the heart. The superior and inferior endocardial cushions fuse, forming two separate openings that are now called the right and left atrioventricular canals. These canals will become the right and left atrioventricular openings of the heart. Now, as blood flows through the heart, it will pass from the atrium, through both atrioventricular openings, into the ventricle, and up through the truncus arteriosus. And the arrows are demonstrating the blood flow pattern. Now what we're going to do is we're going to see the same animation, but from a side or a lateral view. So as I click continue, the atrioventricular canal, lateral view. And again, a reminder, we're just showing the division of the AV canal at this time, but please note that other things like the interventricular and interatrial septa are also forming at this time. They're simply not shown in this animation. So in this side view, you can see the future superior and inferior vena cava, the common atrium, the common ventricle, and the truncus arteriosus. The atrium and the ventricle are connected by an internal opening called the atrioventricular canal. Blood first enters the atrium, passes through the atrioventricular canal, and then goes into the ventricle, and finally exits the heart through the truncus arteriosus. Masses of tissue called endocardial cushions are located on opposite sides of the atrioventricular canal. There's a superior endocardial cushion and an inferior endocardial cushion. The superior and inferior endocardial cushions grow towards one another and eventually partition the AV canal into two separate openings. So here you can see them growing together. They eventually subdivide that common opening into two separate openings. The superior and inferior endocardial cushions fuse, forming two separate openings that are now called the left and right atrioventricular canals. Here you see blood going through the right atrioventricular canal. And now blood is going through the left atrioventricular canal. These canals will become the left and right atrioventricular openings of the heart. Now, as blood flows through the heart, it'll enter the atrium, travel through both atrioventricular openings, go into the ventricle, and then up through the truncus arteriosus.